Captain Midnight.
So The Simpsons is on season 36, and it just feels weird to say that sentence. We've all heard many times that the golden age of the show feels like a lifetime ago. It's almost received wisdom by now, to the point where, in an odd way, season 36 kind of seems to feel the same way. Now don't get me wrong, the show has featured many meta jokes about how long-running it is. That's nothing new, even dating back to the early seasons. But season 36 feels like the first time where that self-deprecating vibe feels less like a joke and more like a plea, a cry to finally just stop. I think that's worth exploring. But first, thanks to everyone who subscribed last week. We're making our way towards 720k subscribers, and if you haven't yet, now could be the time. And if you have, you can always hit that bell to get notified. Oh, and sorry if my audio is a little off this week. I'm recording from the road, but it should be back to normal next time around. Alright, so let's talk about that season 36 premiere, Bart's birthday. In the same way that future-based episodes speculate on who The Simpsons will become, this episode speculates on how the show itself could end. And maybe unsurprisingly, it seems like even The Simpsons itself has a hard time really fathoming that. The episode revolves around Bart's 11th birthday and really deals with the passage of time. You don't see events like this very often on The Simpsons, where a main character has a specific birthday, moving on to the next age. Bart is just eternally 10, so this promised a huge change from the start. Bart himself seems to know this, and he doesn't like it. He can't stand everybody being happy with their lives finally changing. Something is wrong, and he knows it. That terrifying feeling soon manifests as Bart's self-awareness of the show. He begins to understand that he's in a cartoon world and that his existence depends on that show staying on the air. Since The Simpsons made the choice to never really change, being alive for Bart means everything must remain the same. It all becomes a very self-aware affair. Bart has been, and apparently always will be, a 10-year-old troublemaker. That's how the audience knows him, and that's how Fox markets him. So the network must figure, why mess with success? While it might be easy to say that Bart and company should grow up and that might make the show more interesting, and in fact, I will make that case later on, it's a gamble the show has long refused to take. Risking a new development like that could turn off the remaining audience of the show, who, in all fairness, have reacted badly to some major shifts in the past, like the death of Maude. And yet I think there's some recognition in these more recent episodes how kind of artificial that is. That change is inevitable. As cast members pass away and retire, this just can't continue forever. One thing that's interesting though is how the nature of the episode sets Bart against what many, if not maybe even most at this point, viewers actually want. A real end to this series. And in a weird way, it makes it kind of hard to sympathize with Bart in Bart's birthday. Still, I will say the episode gets some really decent mileage out of Bart fighting back against the very concept of final episodes of TV shows, pointing out how corny and derivative the tropes of these series finales, especially sitcoms of long-running shows, can be. As the episode continues, Bart, ends up becoming Fox in a way. The Simpsons must go on, even if the show itself doesn't want to. As a result, Bart ends up breaking the episode, the growth is destroyed, and the show gets a soft reset to Bart's 10th birthday. Interestingly enough, the framing of this episode is that an artificial intelligence has kind of written this as the series finale. And I think that might be the most fascinating aspect of Bart's birthday. Now, it makes perfect sense that the show would want to comment on AI, but the way it's used feels kind of disingenuous to me. Like when the AI is tasked with developing more episodes thanks to Bart, it decides to explode instead. And that's a fun enough gag, but the concept that the AI wanted to end the show in the first place is just kind of bizarre. Now, I hope AI is never used to write The Simpsons, but if it is, it will almost certainly be to keep this thing on life support on the cheap forever, not to wrap it up in a overly sincere way. But the show is only so comfortable arguing for its own ending, so as a result, yeah, the evil AI is the one that wants the show to end. That does not really track as a way that Fox would want to use it, so we're left with an ending where an AI can die, but The Simpsons never can. Obviously, not having to acknowledge the passage of time is a huge advantage that animated shows have, especially in the network's eyes. Actors might age, but their characters do not. It makes it very easy for Fox to keep renewing the series for multi-season deals over and over again. Animation is immortal, and I think there's something that's become very bittersweet about that in the context of these long-running shows. In the episode's ending, former staff writer Conan O'Brien, who, by the way, plays a very big role here, does the old series-ending cliche of turning off the lights before leaving. The twist is that instead of saying he will miss this place, he says the complete opposite. He's definitely not going to miss a show that will never stop, and he's happy to finally leave this repetitive world behind. And that's what I mean here. The Simpsons can almost beg to end, but it can only be that self-aware up to a point. The show's world will probably stay relatively the same forever. It was a really interesting but surprisingly grim start to another season that mostly goes through the motions. I should really note though that it's not all negative. If the season premiere is all cynical, existential dread about its own continued existence, the Christmas special, Oh Come On All Ye Faithful, almost feels like an argument that the show can still be what we remember it being. Now this is a Disney Plus special, and I know this channel has a history of being very harsh on Simpsons Disney Plus specials, but I think this is easily the best thing to come out of that original slate. In it, Ned Flanders becomes jealous of Homer, leading to a crisis of faith. Not necessarily anything new, but pretty well executed here. Flanders struggling to find faith is treated like a real crisis for him. We don't get an onslaught of meta gags like in Bart's Birthday. Instead, we get a special that blends the tone of New Simpsons with some season 1 or 2 earnestness. There is a celebrity guest appearance here, because, of course there is, Darren Brown, who gets involved and makes Homer think he's Santa Claus. But the heart of the special is really with Ned and to a lesser extent Bart. Ned is now a 2-time widower. It's a really odd fact and partially due to the death of Edna's voice actress, but it does give the show something to tackle head on, and I think it does a really solid job of it. One thing I find frustrating here is that Bart's birthday could have actually mattered. Like at the end of that episode, it resets itself so he never turns 11 and none of that really happens. But watching the special as he finds himself feeling a little too old to get into the Christmas spirit that he used to have around this time of year, it makes me wish they had just embraced that small change in ages for good. It's not a huge deal, I just think it would have added a little bit more of emotional resonance. The holiday special has some solid jokes, but overall favors a more dramatic tone, and I think it showcases the best argument for this show to continue to exist. But it's also a huge argument, in my view, for just letting these characters age. I know it would be strange if they did that now and not like 20 years ago, but in a weird way this did convince me that they could get a lot of good material out of that. And to be fair to this show, The Simpsons is in really untested waters. No sitcom has ever made it to 36 seasons. Like, where does a show like this go? With the holiday special, I think the show did find some semblance of a direction. It's as if the show is trying to steer the ship towards dramatic waters, but is hitting the walls it set up in the last few decades hard. Classic Simpsons could handle dramatic territory well, and I think the show wants to go back more into that direction. Something that, again, I do think it would be a lot easier to do if the characters could actually age and change. Season 36 isn't bad because it's not that funny, doesn't resemble Golden Age Simpsons, or has been going on for too long. Many of us came to terms with these aspects a long time ago. What's disheartening is that there is a better show struggling to emerge from this season, and so far, I just don't think it really can. Bart's Birthday sees the show almost begging to be put down, while Oh Come On All Ye Faithful seems to make some small arguments for its own continued existence. When I think about the past few episodes of The Simpsons that have actually garnered the most attention, a lot of them have looked towards the past rather than the future. The episodes that make headlines are like when Albert Brooks returns, or when a background character from the bar, Larry, is killed off. Even the premiere of season 36 got attention for guest starring Danny DeVito, who briefly returned to the role of Herb. Now, some of those I do really enjoy, but they're ultimately just reminders of the past. They make us put on our rose-colored glasses to remember when The Simpsons was great. And while those stunts can draw back older viewers, they only remind us that there's really nothing more exciting in the future. While the show seems obsessed with the future of these characters, they never seem to fully embrace growing towards one. There are plenty of episodes that depict the future for The Simpsons, and they're all really exaggerated takes that get tossed aside in this sliding timeline. It can't seem to envision an actual future where the show could be brought towards an ending, because it just never can. All it can do is replicate what has come before, in a weird way, matching the premiere's faux AI-generated finale. So the show has more or less acted like everything is the same. Add in some Fortnite and TikTok references, and nothing needs to change. But we can hear the straining in Julie Kavner's voice. We know that they need to start wrapping this up. Unless we want to live in a world where the show truly is kept alive with AI. In its current state, The Simpsons can't grow and it can't die. But it's more self-aware of that than ever. Whether that's a good thing, I'll leave up to you. Well, that was kind of a down note, but if you're in the mood for comedy, there's basically no one better at comedically dismantling bad movies than the Riff Trax gang. Born from the genius of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 crew, Riff Trax has just been killing it for well over a decade. On Nebula, you can listen to their takes on King of Kong, a 1986 exploitation film that's as bizarre as it is entertaining. Riff Trax is so great because it celebrates the absurdity of cinema while never feeling mean-spirited. You can catch them and all my videos ad-free on Nebula, along with some originals that I'm very excited to get rolling out soon. Nebula also hosts creators like Lindsay Ellis, Be Kind Rewind, and Man Carrying Thing. They're there alongside so many others because Nebula is the ultimate boutique streaming service, built for creators to share ad-free videos and innovative projects that can really thrive there, all while delivering creative, different, and new experiences for viewers. Sign up now at go.nebula.tv/captainmidnight for 40% off, just $36 a year or $3 monthly. You'll also get guest passes to give friends or family a week's access. So check it out with that QR code on screen or just with a link in the description or pinned comment down below.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes too.